Hey everyone, Paul Addison. Welcome to part 2 of our Fujimi 116 Ferrari blah blah blah. Hi everyone, Paul Addison. Welcome to part 2 of our Fujimi 116 Ferrari 288 GTO. So we did all the bodywork in the first part. Today we're going to focus on the engine. I was quite overwhelmed at how much there was to do on this engine. There's about 70 separate components to build up, and it was quite overwhelming to do, and a lot of work to clean up, prime, paint, detail, wash. And just to prep, so sand, cut off, sand, prime and paint base colours, took me about 6.5–7 hours to do, just to do those parts. Never mind detail painting it, assembling, put a wash on, blah blah blah. A lot of work on into this video, an immense amount of cleanup required, but it went okay. So without waffling on, let's jump straight into the engine. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. Right then, so in with the obligatory cutting off of parts. Now, this entire sprue is for the engine. There's a few little bits as well, but everything here is a component we're going to use today. As I said, quite overwhelming. I didn't realise there was quite this many parts, but there is. We're just sorting out the light because the light's currently blocking my webcam and the camera at the same time. And obviously a live stream. And we do the builds at the same time, so I've got to make sure everyone can see everything when I'm filming. So, like I say, lots to clean up here, lots of fiddly parts to clean. So we're just going to go through, cut them all off our TAMIYA side cutters, get them all on the bench, have a look at what we're looking at, and then pick our appropriate sanders to deal with any seams or sprue gates as we go. But currently here, I'm looking at instructions and counting off the parts, and then it slowly dawned on me that, hang on, every single part on the sprue is going to be used on those 2 pages right in front of me. Okay, let's just cut them all off, which we do. And I'll just quickly go through and cut them all off the sprue. Can't beat the TAMIYA side cutters in my opinion. My last set I have for about 5 years, I think. I'm only replaced them because I damaged them stupidly. Cutting things I shouldn't have been. But yeah, they are wonderful. And these are all the components. There's a lot of them, as you can see. So they're all cut off. I've got my storage case you've seen before. And what we're going to do, we're going to pop these in. And then I was going to work on the engine separately. And I thought, you know what? I'll cut all the other parts off. We can get them in this box out the way. We know they're safe. And we can get rid of the giant Fujimi 16 scale box, which is kind of in the way of the bench and work area at the minute. So like I said, we go through, we go to the interior parts cut off, every part off the sprues, and everything safely stored in that plastic case. Clear parts are in there safe, nothing's getting rattled around, nothing's going to fall on the floor. Everything is safe, and it's a way I like to work. It does work well, and it's nice to know everything's where you left it. So, like I say, I think it's 67 components here to clean up, and about 3 or 4 off a different sprues. So we're going to use a combination of UMP Ultimate Denny Sticks. This is the 400. We're going to use customizables, we're going to use buffers, we're going to use sponges, and just go around and clean up all the sprue points, any seams. And once they're cleaned up, we give them a buff back with the rougher side of the polisher. Once we're happy, give it a buff up with the smooth side, and we're back to as good a new plastic, ready for gluing together. Now, I did make a mistake on this kit. Normally at this stage, I'll look for things that are the same colour, which would be the engine block, the heads, the ends, anything, the transmission. I plan to do all those in flat aluminium, and for some reason I didn't assemble it. I mounted every part separately, and painted them all separately. It's only when I painted them all I was like, what have you done? You're a pillock. But hey, that's what we're doing here. So everything's going to be painted up separately. We're cleaning up this rather awkward bit now with a 400 customizable cut to shape, because you can get right in there. And I did notice a few ejector pin marks on a few parts. So we've got some sprue glue here. I'm going to do a video on making this because I want to make a nice new bottle of this using white styrene. But basically it's molten plastic in an old TAMIYA extra thin pot. And there we go. That is everything cleaned up. This is the next day, so the sprue glue is dried. Everything's been sanded and cleaned up properly. And I'm just OCD setting up a picture for Facebook because I like to do these kind of things. But as you can see, we've got a lot of components there. Quite a lot to do. They're all cleaned up, thankfully. Now we need to prime and paint them all as well. So quite a lot of work. Like I say, probably about 2.5 hours to clean up all those bits. Very boring, very mind-numbing, but unfortunately a necessary evil of modelling. Couldn't resist putting the body together, so this has been curing off camera. The red is looking fantastic, beautiful deep red. We've got those dust spots, we'll take care of those, not a problem. But we friction fitted the door, the boot lid's in. Boot lid's got a little bit too much clear in places, but we'll flat it and get rid of that, not an issue, but everything still fits. So that is good. Primer, we're going to use Mr. Service of 1500 black. Now, some of these parts are going to be left black, some are going to be metallic. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. Anything black will be left in Mr. Surfacer because it's a great colour black, in my opinion. And anything else we can make into subsections and paint in the appropriate metallic colours. So, generous helping of that now for Pipette. And look, a lid. Yay! We remember to put the lid on. So that is thinned about 60% with Mr. Hobby Leveling Thinner. We're at about 18, between 12 and 18 psi-ish. It's hard to tell my regulator. I'm going to guess it's somewhere in between there. Don't have to be exact. I'm just going to put a couple of light coats down. It does take a bit to cover, so don't go hosing it on. It's not like UMP. It's not very forgiving. But we're just going to put a couple of coats down on all the parts. Let that dry overnight. We can come back the next day and apply on metallic. So it is a lacquer. It does absolutely reek. And at the minute, these lacquer paints, the lacquer thinners, the cleaners, they are playing havoc with me. I've been getting headaches off them when I've been sitting in the room after spraying them. So I'm making a fact now of working out a regime of if I spray, I leave the room. So if I'm going to leave the room in an hour for the day, I'll spray then, rather than sitting in there with a fog of lacquer thinner. TAMIYA Print Primer now. Again, another lacquer paint. I'm just going to give all these parts going to be sprayed red. A couple of coats. Again, thinned about 60%. No, it's not actually, sorry. This is decanted out of the rattle can, off-gassed. And then thinned about 20% with TAMIYA lacquer thinner with retarder. Spraying both of these paints, the Mr. Surfacer and the TAMIYA through the 0.2mm apex between 12 and 18 psi. And we're just putting a couple of coats down. You can see how well it covers. Really does cover well. And the test sprays, be it the primers, whatever, they do like to go on a little bit wetter. So get a little bit of a mist coat down. Then come back in with your wet coats. I don't mean hose it on, but you can be quite liberal with how much you put on there. And again, there we go. Fast forward, you don't see all the parts primed. All the black parts are primed in Mr. Surfacer Black. As you see, there's a lot of them. And any other colour is, well, it's going to be red. And speaking of the red, here we go. It's textured red paint from Zero Paints. And we're going to put some of this on. So, a couple of light coats, work our way around. Again, you don't want to be overzealous with this, because not only can it craze, this stuff can crack. And I did have ever such a little bit of it on one of these cam covers, where it just cracked a little bit. So I almost got a little bit exuberant in one place. No lid, as I'm lobbing the paint around everywhere. Luckily, I don't think we spill any. But as you see, the coverage is quite well. I'm just doing very, very fine coats. Same airbrush, same pressure as before. And this is after a second coat, about 10-15 minutes later. And as you can see, everything else has been done as well. We're on the final coat of them all. Quite a lot of red parts, but it does add a nice bit of colour to the engine, which at this stage I'm a little bit doubtful what it's going to look like. So we'll have to see how it turns out at the end. But yeah, a couple of light coats of this. This stuff really stinks, so really make sure you've got good ventilation. LP65 rubber black, so we're going to spray up some parts that called for not quite black, so this is like a grey black. And we're going to paint up the part. So we've got a engine support that goes on the back of the engine as well. So a couple of light coats, same airbrush, same pressure, thinned about 60% with with TAMIYA lacquer thin with retarder, and just going to give everything a light coat. So these are the rubber belts, so we're spraying them rubber black. We'll detail paint the pulleys later on. Once they're done, we've got some TAMIYA LP38 matte silver. And this is my colour for all the engine block. It's a nice matte colour. Looking at reference pictures, the block is matte aluminium. So that's what we're going for. So these are thinned. I've pre-thinned the whole bottle into another bottle. Thinned about 60% TAMIYA lacquer thinner without retarder on these because they're metallics. The theory is that the metallic paints dry a bit quicker and the metallic pigments don't sink down to the bottom. And you get a better sheen. And again, I'm just going to give everything a couple of coats. Working our way around. You'll tell when you go enough because you'll have a nice solid colour. You don't want to hose it on, but you certainly want to put enough down to get the metallic effect. And as you can see, it covers super fast. Really good paints. Really glad I've switched over to, well, all lacquers now on my metallics. Don't really use Mr. Hobby AK Extremes anymore. And then I wanted to change the colour for some other parts. So we've gone LP63 Tit Silver, which translates to titanium silver. And we're just going to spray up some parts that will touch those other matte aluminium parts just to give a little bit of visual interest. No other reason. You could spray all the same colour, but I just thought for a little bit of a visual effect, we're doing a slightly different colour. And this titanium silver is a lovely colour. Again, same pressure, same airbrush size, same technique, same thinning ratio. Everything, as you can see, the coverage on these is phenomenal. They are beautiful. And by the time we've gone around even a small part like this, it's near enough dry on the other side. It's super fast. Mr. Hobby Super Metallics, stainless, absolutely beautiful colour this. I've not really used this before, but I guarantee you'll be using it in the future. They're very thick paints out the bottle. So we're going to thin them quite heavily with the Mr. Hobby Rapid Thinner. So again, the theory is the paints dry a lot quicker, the metallic flakes stay at the top and don't sink, and you get a better metallic finish. Same airbrush, 0.2mm needle, 12 to 18 psi, and a few light coats, building it up, and look at that colour. Absolutely spectacular colour. Fortunately, it's not going to be our final colour, because it looked a bit odd. So we're going to do some of this a little bit later on, but the coverage off these paints, beautiful pigment size, really does look good. And like I say, we'll just go around, give everything a light coat, give it a couple of coats, 2, 3 coats. You'll know when you're done because you'll get a nice uniform metallic sheen. And that's it. And then on the exhaust back box itself, this colour really shows how good it is. Absolutely stunning. We need to use these on a set of wheels or something. I'm even tempted when I strip the wheels on this to paint them in this colour. I don't know because I don't think they'll be silvery enough. We'll see. But what a wonderful colour. The Mr. Hobby Super Metallics are beautiful paints. And yeah. Right, quick word from our sponsors. Head on over to www.umpretail.com and help support mine and Lee's business, because without Ultimate Modelling products, there would not be any international scale modeler, and all the videos we put out there, and the Facebook page, and the forum we run. We stock loads and loads of modelling products, including all our own products of our Apex airbrush, our pigments, primers, sanders, thinner and cleaner tools, our wonderful storage system, polish system, and weathering washes. We also sell modelling tools, paints, model kits, glue, solutions, fillers, weathering products, aftermarket, and of course, international scale modeler merchandise and gift cards. And all orders made before 12 midday get next day delivery in the UK, and international orders are shipped within 48 hours. Right then, so these are all the parts after painting. That stainless steel colour is absolutely stunning. The titanium colour looks great as well. Our flat aluminium, absolutely perfect. Very happy with this. And then our texture paint looks great as well. For some reason I decided not to show them, so imagine those in your brain. You'll see them in a little bit, but they did look good. So we've got a few parts to mask up. I'm not going to bore you by sitting here masking it all up, but we need to mask up the silver of this to paint it black, so we'll mask it up. A couple of coats of Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, and that'll give us a nice little bit of detail. So just using some of the TAMIYA tapes, the 6mm and the 3mm TAMIYA tapes to mask this up. A little fiddly 5-10 minute job, but again, necessary evil. And then a few of the other parts need masking up, and we're going to spray these in a slightly different metallic colour. So this is the stainless colour, and we're going to spray this in the flat aluminium we've done most of the engine parts in. Again, just to give a little bit of visual difference. If you ever got two colours next to each other, if you spray one, even just a slightly different shade, even a different colour primer with the same base coat, will add just a little bit of visual interest and not make it look so monotone. It's worth doing. And then this part, we need to spray what would be the red flexible hoses. The hose clamps are way oversized. If I was going to super detail, I would sand them down and put my own on, but we're not. So they're sprayed off camera. So we've got the auxiliary belts and pulleys. These were sprayed in rubber black. And I'm going to paint up all the pulleys and accessories in Mr. Colour 9 Gold. We're just going to brush paint it straight out of the pot. The trick to using this is just to load your brush up and touch it rather than brushing. It's not the best brush paint, but it's basically what I've got. So that's what we're going to use. Beautiful pigmented paints, really, really nice. As you see, I've got my Optivisor on as well. We've got a nice Winsor Newton miniature brush as well to get right in there. And I'm just constantly dabbing the brush in and dabbing the paint on. And we're going to paint up all those pulleys as well. Here we've got a bit of Mr. Colour Burnt Iron. We've mixed that with the gold to get a slightly darker bronzy gold colour. We're going to do the rest of the pulleys in those. Again, not the best brush paint, but it's all I've got at hand, so that's what we're going to use. As you can see, my head, wonderful. Nice grey hairs, look at that. TAMIYA Optivisor I'm wearing, absolutely phenomenal, well worth the money. And then where we've sprayed our hoses in red, we're just going to detail paint the clamps, or what they would be clamps, with Vallejo silver. Just add a little bit of visual interest to it again. It's a little bit of careful brush painting. We'll do the job nicely. So we chuck that in and job done. Like I said, I was going to super detail it. I'd have sanded those off and added my own, but we're not. I'm not going to go absolutely crazy on this, so it is what it is. Engine cover painted in that textured red paint from Zero Paints. And we're going to detail up all the head bolts. So we've got some of the Vallejo silver, our Winsor Newton brush. And we're just going to very carefully and gently paint up all the bolt heads. As you can see, they're quite a striking contrast really between the red with the silver. The texture paint looks wonderful, it really does look good. Suits these down to the ground. It's a little bit more vibrant in real life. The camera dulls it a little bit, but in real life it is pretty decent. It's a nice bright red. Like I say, just adding small things like this. You can do this with a cocktail stick. Just dab it on, blunt the end of the cocktail stick, dip it in the paint and touch it. But I'm confident enough with the brush, with the fine motor skills, to get in there and just brush paint all the bolt heads. And there we go, we do that for both of them. Let that dry, which only takes a couple of minutes. And again, a little bit of detail added to the engine bay. Now assembly, like I say, I didn't glue all the parts together, and these could have all been glued together beforehand, painted as one. Would have saved me a bit of time on painting, but no, for some reason I've left them all, and now we're going to say glue all the parts on. Now this does create a couple of problems, but it also solves a few issues later on that if I had have glued it, we would have probably glued things on wrong. So I am glad in a way that I did this. So it's going to follow the instructions, watch out for any excess CA glue. So clamp the parts together, hold them for a second, make sure they're in. There we go, that's in now. Hold it and just keep a hold till it's dry. And we'll go around and pop all the engine in as the instructions call for. So again, cylinder heads, make sure you get these the right way around. They are handed. They have to go a particular way. So look at your instructions and make sure they're orientated correctly. Check the other one. It is clear if you look at the instructions which way they go. There's a little cutout on each end that does say which way around they're orientated, so pay attention to that. And then they can all be glued in place carefully, like so. A little bit of excess CA glue gone. Then we've got our oil filter housing. We've masked that up and sprayed that in blue. There's a decal to go on that later as well. And again, start the red parts. These just glue in place. Again, they are handed. Make sure you get the correct parts with the right side. And then our inlet manifold, I assume this is. One on each side. So some careful CA application using our Loctite Perfect pen. Make sure these are facing the right way. And again, these are handed, so make sure you get the right side on the right side. Really liking that texture paint, but you do really need to be careful and do nice light coats because it will separate. Like I say, one of the cylinder heads, the cam covers, has just got an ever so just like crack in one place. And it's just where the paint's pulled back on itself as it's dried. So just take your time, nice light coats, build it up. And you'll be all good. So yeah, we'll do this to this side, we'll assemble the other, and then we can get these in place. These are quite tricky to place on the model, so it takes a little bit of care. And again, the top of the intake, keep an eye which way it goes. Again, it is handed. Pop it in place, careful of any excess CA glue. If you've got any, just get a cotton bud and wipe it off. And again, a couple of dabs of CA glue. Where these locate, they are quite filly, they're not very positively secured, so let the CA glue do its work. And then we've got a little pipe in between both of them. So we just, a couple of dabs of glue, separate them ever so slightly, pop it in place, and that is that. Make sure it's all straight and level. So it's building up to be not a bad engine at all, quite surprised. I had doubts at the beginning, but it's actually looking like it's going to be quite a sharp looking engine. A little bit more detail painting. We're going to paint the end of these, which is where the distributors go. I assume the distributors anyway, they look like it. And then we've got our cam covers as well. A few dabs of CA glue. Again, they are handed left and right, so make sure you get them the correct side. And there we go. Looking good. And then I'm assuming these are the cam belt or chain covers. I'm going to guess the chains on this, are they? I might be wrong. So generous help in the CA glue in strategic places where it's not going to be seen. And then pop them in place. They do fit on there quite securely, positively. And there we go. Very nice. We've got this part on the other side as well. It just pops in place like so. So a couple of dabs of CA glue will hold that in place. Locates quite positively at the front. So a little dab of CA glue in there, a little dab at the back, and that holds that on really well as well. And then we've got our mount at the back, which holds our exhaust. Got to make sure this is straight. It's not quite straight here. I had to disassemble that rear assembly of the gearbox just to straighten it up. But this is the bit I was glad I didn't glue because I want to really go to town to break it up. It's starting to look good now. Not too bad at all. We've got our HT leads now. The red wire comes with the kit. Perfect size. So we're just going to pop it through the pre-drilled holes. Put a generous enough length of this through with a little dab of CA glue on. And cut it off, leaving a bit of excess. There's loads of excess wire with the kit, so you don't need to be worried. Got these wonderful wire cutters my buddy Andy sent me many moons ago that I use for all my wire cutting. And again, we just make sure they reach the back where the distributors are, or coils, whatever they are. I don't no idea what they are. We just pop them in place, and then we can repeat that to the side, and then get them all in place. Like I say, you get plenty of spare wire. So that's both sides wired up now, I think. And this is one of our distributors. So they're in two halves. One half goes on the head. The other half goes on the back. There's like a gap in the top where we can put the leads in. So you're just got to find out the right ones. Once you're happy, a little bit of CA glue, and you can commit to gluing them in place. And there we go. start gluing in the leads from the short to the long. You're going to have to cut them, so you're going to have to test fit, cut, test fit, then glue once you're happy. Get them all lined up as good as possible. If it's a little bit too long, just take a little bit off. Take less rather than more, or you're going to have to fiddle around getting the cable back out. Do that, a little bit of sea glue where it's required. Use your tweezers. Pop the cable in the gap. Hold for a second, and there we go. There's that side done. So we could repeat that for the other side. Nice and simple. And again, nice bit of detail added to the engine. And there we go. Final piece in. Wasn't quite happy with one of them, so I popped it back out. Gave it a little bit of a trim. Popped it back in place. The beauty of this sea glue from Loctite, with it being a gel, it can give you a little bit of leeway on time with working with it. So you can get it back out if you're quick. If you notice a mistake, you can do it quick. Right, the pulleys, we're gluing these together now. They've all been detail painted. Refer to instructions. There's a locating lug on them that only really allows them to mount one way. At this point, you need to start being careful. You've got no sea glue on your fingers. And again, a few mounting points on the engine. Line it up. Push them home. Bish bash bosh. Job done. There we go. So, a few more parts to mask up. We've got this hose from the inlet manifold from the, I guess it's the filter box, that we're going to spray in red. And then on our stainless steel from before, we've got some Alclad sepia. This is a sepia coloured thin ink kind of spray. And we're just going to put some light coats down over the top of that beautiful stainless colour, just to darken it a bit and just give it a bit more of a exhausty look, if that's a word. So again, it is a lacquer, nice thin coats are needed. Same airbrush, 0.2, 12 to 18 psi. We're just going to put some light coats down, building it up with a couple of coats until we're happy with the colour. But nice colour, really happy I chose this colour combination basically, because it does look good. And because we're not spraying it on really uniform or with the same amount of coat on all the parts, we get a little bit of variation in the colour, which again is always good. I've done the two parts of the back box the same, that's why I'm just checking those. Needs a little bit more of that one, but the rest of the part have just been done here and there as I've gone along through them. So once that's done, I thought, right, let's go over the stainless steel again and we'll blend all that together. So we've thinned it a little bit more and we're a little bit further away distance wise, and that way we get the nice sheen of the stainless steel with that nice burnt look of that sepia. So I'm not trying to cover it. As you can see, I'm spraying quick. It's very, very thin, so it's not covering as well. We're not putting as much down, but we just want to blend the colours together. Obviously, I could have done this different way. I could have sprayed the sepia first, but I think this way we get a nice bit of variation on the colours. Like I say, we're not trying to spray it uniform. We're just trying to get a few different tones on the part together. So again, just take your time, build it up slowly. If you mess it up, you can't really, because you can just go back and respray the sepia, blah, blah, blah. LP7, TAMIYA now, red for our hoses, flexible joints, a couple of light coats on each one of these, and then all these parts are left overnight, and we're back for Sunday morning's live show. So a wash, sorry, this is the night before actually, a wash. So what I've done, I've got some TAMIYA's black panel line wash. I've thinned a little bit more with some Santador odorless mineral spirits because I don't want the wash as thick. And we're going to go around the entire model, the entire engine, and give a wash to any recess or raised area as shown. Let it dry and then wipe off the excess. What I'm probably going to do is put a couple of coats down because I've done it nice and thin. I still want to make sure we get the nice depth, but you can see there straight away it adds depth and visual interest even before it's dried. So it's a case of just going round and carefully applying it on all, anything raised or recessed, anything that's got a panel line or a crease in it, anything at all. Give it a little bit of wash because it does add a lot of visual interest. Just those cam covers alone look so much nicer now. It really does bring things alive. So it's up to you how much you put down. Takes about half an hour, 40 minutes to dry, depending on how hot it is or humid. So you can always come back and add a bit more later on should you wish. It's all down to your own individual eye, how much you want to weather it. Now, I was originally not going to wash the red parts, but a bit of accidental touching of the brush spoiled that late on last night. So I got as much off as I could. I then used a cotton bud that was kind of laden with wash and just rubbed it all over the red to give it a little bit of a dirtier look. And I think it's paid off. I think it makes it look a bit more natural. It's not quite as bright a red. So basically, that's kind of it now. That's all washed. I'm going to leave that to dry for half an hour. I'm going to come back, put another coat on, and then see what it looks like. So again, same kind of technique on, I assume these are air cleaners. We're just going to let the panel line flow, capillary reaction, carry it around, get it all filled. We'll leave it overnight. The next day we'll come in with some Santador on a cotton bud, remove all the excess, and we'll be left with a nice weathered looking part with hopefully a bit more depth and a bit more character and a bit more interest to it. I think thinning it is definitely beneficial for things like this where you don't need a massively thin, thick coat. For panel lines, I leave it unthinned, but for things like this, I think it's definitely beneficial to thin it where you don't quite need as aggressive a wash. Like I say, we're going to wash, if it's got a raised or recessed line or mark or hole, it's getting washed. Everything will get done all the way around the model, every single part, in an attempt to just give any detail we can. You could go one step further, you could dry brush, like I say. There's lots of techniques, but this is what I like to do. So you can just touch the brush. If you get a little bit too much on, you can just get rid of the excess like so, and then just touch the brush on it, and get the excess wash off. You can just wipe that or place it somewhere else. And again, come back around, another light coat. Until you're happy with the result. Like I say, how much you want to weather this is all down to you. If you want to do a completely, worn engine, used engine, you could dry brush it to give it a bit more wear. You could add some pigments, heavier washes. The sky's the limit, really. For me, I'm doing, well, it's just a well-maintained car. Barely driven like most of my cars are. That's the look I'm going for. So, for me, this light wash, just to add some visual interest rather than weathering per se, is more than enough for me. But you can see well the capillary flows, especially thinned as well. It really does work well. It's a nice wash, and you can see it adding the depth already to the engine bay. So well worth adding. It's a shame, it's a bit of a pain to get the TAMIYA panel line wash in the UK due to import restrictions, but if you can find it, it's well worth seeking out. So after accidentally getting some wash on it, I thought, right, okay, let's put some wash on the red bits. So this is the night before, Sunday today, this is the night before, it's Saturday evening. I thought, let's put a wash on all this, and then we'll sort it out in the morning and get rid of the excess. We're not going mad. We're not putting loads of it on, and again, it is thinned. We go around the Ferrari logo, around all the cooling fins, everywhere, and then we'll come back the next day and remove as much as possible. So there we go. So we've got a cotton bud moistened with Santador, Winsor Newton. I'm just going to lightly go around again. You've got to be careful. As you can see, the cotton bud is red. It is taking off some of that paint. We don't want to go right back to bare plastic, so don't be using loads of pressure for a long time in one particular place. Take your time and you'll be all good. So we go around the whole engine bay with the cotton buds and removed all the excess wash, and now we can start gluing together our exhaust turbo intake exhaust system. So the headers or manifolds are say glued in place. Make sure you get them the right way around. Couple of dabs of CA glue inside each one. There we go. Nice careful precision. And we can pop these in. Be careful when you're picking parts back up that you've got no CA glue on your fingers. You'll do it. I've done it. I still do it. and it ruins parts. Now we've got to refer to the instructions here to figure out what part is what goes where. So dry fit things first, have a little look. It clicks together and it looks right, glue it. If not, test fit, double check. And you can always confirm by assembling the other side, because we've got two sides here that are near enough identical. So we can look and see if they're a mirror image of each other, and if not, see where you've gone wrong and, you know, replicate it, repair it before you carry on. So we've assembled the turbos and their associated pipework. We've got the muffler box, I suppose you call this, silencer on the back. We've then got our intake hoses with metal parts there. These go into the air cleaner, so generous little bit of say glue. Pop the back part on first. Make sure that's all straight. We need a little bit of say glue on the exhaust there as well. And then we need to line all this up. So we need to locate on the inlet manifold, the exhaust manifold, and then line that pipe up at the back into the exhaust system itself. A little bit fiddly, take your time. The parts do take a little bit of finagling, you can have that word, into place. But again, time well spent. And then we just test that to make sure that fits in. I'm not going to glue that on just yet. But there we go, everything looks straight and level to me. Make sure everything's where we want it. If you've got any excess CA glue, you can get it off now very quickly. Again, the beauty of that slightly slower drying gel. And then we can put in some of the other associated parts. Again, these locate only one way. Pop those in. A little bit of CA glue on top again. We get all these parts located in. So, very small instruction book on this. I think it's only about 6 pages in total. Well written, well detailed. Everything looks to be described quite well. It could do a little bit of explanation on some of the parts, on how they're orientated, because it can be a little bit confusing in places. But overall, this kit's going really well so far. Again, another 1/16 kit I'm impressed with. Nicely detailed as well, with those different metallic colours we've got. It's starting to look the part. Now, slightly off camera here, I do apologise. We're just putting a couple of dabs of CA glue on those location points, just at the back of the engine. And then grab this part and pop it in place. You'll see it any second now. I do apologise. When I'm zoomed in, sometimes I forget. But there we go. That's in place. That sits right in the middle of those. We've got our exhaust pipes out the back as well. So we've only put a little bit of CA glue on those to hold those in, because they'll probably need moving and tweaking at the end. A couple of dabs on there for the top of the exhaust silencer box. And there we go. Pop that in place. Wonderful colour. That's stainless with the sepia on top. I'm very happy I chose that, because it does look really, really good. Now, test fit in the body. For God's sake, make sure you've got no CA glue on your fingers. But I've popped it into the chassis where it hasn't been painted yet. And I've just popped the body on to see how it fits, and it fits perfectly. So as you can see, half the engine's hidden, unfortunately. The exhaust pipes line up pretty well. They're the chrome pipes. We'll strip those and respray them. But that engine's looking really nice in there. Like I say, we may add a little bit more detail later. I may not. I don't know. I'll see what can be seen from that point of view there, and maybe we'll add that. We'll pop our engine cover on. Like I say, we've got dust to sort out on the body. That can all be flattened and polished up. I've just dropped something on the floor. There we go, picked it up. And we just try that on the back, and yeah, this is going to look good. It's going to be a sharp looking car, this one. So let's get the engine cover back off. And yeah, happy with that engine, happy with all those colours we chose. I think they look quite well together. Very, very striking. I'm glad I chose the colours for the exhaust. I'm glad I changed it from just a stainless, because I think it just adds a nice bit of depth to it. And it's going to be quite an impressive engine bay once it's opened up on the finished model. So really looking forward to progressing with this one. So really looking forward to getting back to the next part, which will be painting the chassis, getting the steering components on, suspension components, and maybe even a start on the interior. We shall see. But this is looking good. It's going to look great once it's all built up. You've got the engine cover open, and we can see all this. Like I say, I'll have a look at what we can add to it to make it a bit more visually interesting from that point of view we've got there. And here we go, a couple of pictures of it from outside the vehicle. Looks really good, happy with that. Like I say, we still need to strip the chrome exhaust tips. We'll sort those out because I don't like the factory chrome, so we'll strip those and molito them. But for the most part, I think it looks quite good. Not a bad detailed engine. Not quite what you get in a 12 kit, but certainly better than a 24th. So kind of in between, which is what I like about these kits. They're neither one nor the other, but they still have good detail. HT leads look good. Exhaust manifolds look good. There's 2 pipes at the back there that I've done the same way I did the exhaust. I'm probably going to take those off and spray them in the flat aluminium so it matches the rest of the engine there, because they look a little bit odd. But this is looking good. Once we get the chassis done and the suspension in, again, it'll blend itself together a bit more. But overall, happy how this is going. It looks very good. Not too bad at all. Got some still shots as well that I put up on Facebook. Really looking forward to flattening this body. I think it's going to look good. The red is super deep. It's a beautiful shade of red. We've got a nice clear coat on it. Shame about the dust, but we can sort that. It's a bit of a nightmare, the dust issue. More thankful there's no flock in there, because I can get rid of the dust. The flock is under the clear coat and we're screwed. So, like I say, this is going to take a few hours of polishing and sanding, but we'll get there, and hopefully we're going to end up with a beautiful looking Rosso Red 288. Got a few different angles of the car. It's a stunning looking car. It really is pretty. A lot of people have asked why I've left the sprue in the window. For strength. Purely for strength. It's only got the A-pillars for strength up there and the sills. There's not a lot there. Look at that side profile. Stunning looking car. So I've left them in. The window surrounds are black, so they'll be painted black. So we can just cut them off when we're ready, sand them smooth, paint the window seals, and no one will ever know they're there. So that's the reason why they're left. And from behind, this looks great. This is a car that looks spectacular from every angle. And like I say, I bought this not long ago and I was itching to build it. And I'm happy I've started it. And hopefully you're enjoying the build along with me. There we go then, that's where we're at today. I'm happy how that's come out. I could go to town and super detail that thing. We could add clamps, hoses, wires, everything. I'm going to have a look at it, see what I think. If there's any simple things that could be added. You know me, the skyline's supposed to be simple. The 12 scale, that went crazy. I don't want to do that again. But I might add a little bit more detail. Add some hosing and tubing and wires. We'll see. I'll have a little look through. But for a kit engine, it's not bad at all. It looks pretty impressive. I'm glad of the colours I chose. That stainless steel from Mitsubishi Super Metallic is a wonderful colour. Absolutely beautiful colour. And I think its suit, a set of wheels, would look fantastic in that. And spraying the Alclad sepia over the top, I think that's made it into a nice shade. And I'm pretty much happy with all the colour choices I've made on the engine. So, yeah, happy how that's looking. Next video build, we're going to be back. We're going to try and get back to part 2 of the Mustang, because I know a lot of people have been waiting for that, and the views for that have been amazing. It's had like nearly 5 times as many views as normal, which is pretty impressive, really. So we're going to try and get back to that and get the cockpit assembled, weathered up, detail painted, blah, 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 and try and get that done. And then come back to this Ferrari, because I'm enjoying this Ferrari at the minute, and that's what I want to kind of stick with while I'm enjoying it. I know my next video build, I just need to get the kit. As soon as I get that, we'll start it. It's a current kit that's not long been released. It's a re-release. So once I get my hands on that, I'll do a review, and we'll get cracking on that, because I think that'll be an interesting build as well, because it's not my normal kind of build either. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as always, leave your comments, questions down below. If you built the kit, if you think anything should be different, whatever, let me know. Make sure you sub to the channel, click the bell notification, and leave a comment. Like I say, I do appreciate every single comment you all leave. They spur me on with the builds, they drive me on, and give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down should you wish. Check out the International Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com. You can get a lot of products I use in my videos. There's a big list in the description down below if you click on it. And check out the Live Bench page and the Off Air Hangout group, and check out my Paul ISM modelling page as well. All the links for these are in the description down below. as well as a link to my gaming channel. If you're into any Warzone or Grand Theft Auto, I've been streaming that nightly as well over on Twitch. So there's a link down there as well. You can come over there and chat to me, watch me play games really badly, have a laugh, and yeah, there we go. So we'll be back, hopefully with Mustang Part 2 very, very soon, the P51, well, the F51 Mustang. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Well, it's not weekend, actually. Scratch that. It's Sunday today. You'll see this Monday, I think. Maybe. Possibly. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If not, enjoy your week. Don't work too hard, and I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.